Welcome to Sips and Spirits. This is our first episode. This is a podcast for those that love spirits of both the alcoholic and spectral kinds. I am Chelsea. I am one of the co-hosts.
And I'm Eric, the second co-host. A little disclaimer before we get started. We're not historians, nor professional trained mixologists. Any facts or stories presented are from various sources, and we mean no disrespect if something is not presented 100% accurate. We make no claims that these tales are true. We just found them to be spooky and interesting in nature.
So today we are calling upon a spirit from the 3Howls distillery in Seattle, Washington. We're using their Navy strength gin to conjure up the last word cocktail. Yeah, so that's what's in our glass. It's like this fun green color. I'm loving it.
Yeah, I was like making it and I was like, it's going to be, I wasn't sure how it's going to look, but like the picture was kind of like a lemonade looking thing. I was like, okay, cool. But then like putting the stuff together, it's like, wait a minute. I don't know these things.
Okay, so I forgot. Are we gonna do the tasting first and then share our little facts about the distillery while we enjoy our drink? So just jump into the drinking.
Facts first, and then let's taste.
Facts. Okay.
Let's just make our mouth water wanting to taste this.
I'm already ready. Okay, so I'm going to be the historian of all the liquors we're drinking, the research expert per se. So I have 6 fun little facts. First of all, we don't have the bottle. I meant to have it here. Oh well, we'll remember next time. So the label name is inspired by the Cù-sith, which is a mythical giant hound from Scotland. I think you have more details.
I'll go into it a little more.
So I'm not going to go into more than that. But one of my facts that correlates with the choice of the name for the distillery is that the Cù-sith would howl 3 times before bringing a soul to the underworld. And the 3Howls distillery, they associate that of their howling distillery is bringing the old world distilling methods to the new world flavors by being based in Washington State.
I was like, wait, Washington, D.C. State?
Yeah. So they do have a distillery dog, and her name is Annie, and she's a Boston Terrier. So if you ever get the chance to visit the distillery, you'll probably run into Annie. And she is the inspiration for the label logo. So there's a little, it looks like a werewolf or something, which is what drew us to pick out this liquor bottle. But apparently it's inspired by a Boston Terrier. But apparently Annie is a big sweetheart. So if you guys ever make it out to the 3Howls distillery, say hello for us. A little bit about the gin that we're drinking, specifically gin that's labeled Navy strength. So the Navy would give liquor rations of rum or gin, and eventually they specified rum to sailors and gin for naval officers. So the terminology of a proof originated from the Royal Navy, and they used the marking of proof, so the percentage, to signify alcohol that was 57% ABV, which is alcohol by volume. So that means it had to be 57% alcohol in order for gunpowder to light when being soaked by the gin. So if it was ignitable, it'd be called gunpowder proof. I kind of changed my facts around a little, and my notes were in the other fact. Whoops. So alcohols on Navy vessels needed to contain that 57% ABV in order to be considered Navy strength. However, they weren't called Navy strength. A gin company called Plymouth Gin actually coined the term Navy strength to mark their gins that were at the 57% ABV or higher. And the reason that 57% alcohol is so important is because originally the alcohol was all stored in barrels right next to the gunpowder. And if there was a leakage of the liquor into the gunpowder, they still needed to be able to use it, even if it was soaked through and wet. Why are you laughing?
Because I have like a million thoughts going through my head right now.
Okay. So, well, there's my little 6 facts about the liquor and the distillery.
Okay. Yeah. So let's dig in.
Dig in.
Dig into this.
Okay. And
cheers.
It's the dinkiest. Like.
Sorry for the mouthy noises. I'm like, this is interesting. A lot of flavors I don't recognize. Where can we find this recipe? What is last word?
Oh, you threw me off. I was going to start going into my tasting notes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so as in every episode from now on, we will always include a link to the recipe in our show notes. But you can find this. We actually got it specifically from the 3Howls website. So if you go on to 3Howls and look under the recipes, you'll find this cocktail. Yeah, and like I said, I'll be sure to always link it in the show notes when we get this episode updated. And I was like, it's almost got, for tasting notes, like a martini olive flavor, but not as like of that strong tang. And I wonder if that's the green chartreuse.
So I think the green chartreuse is the herbal taste that I get, like the earthy taste.
Well, and I think that's where I'm seeing like the green olive.
Yeah. But to me, it's like an earthy lemonade. Like this is like refreshing. Like I'm like, oh, this is really cool. I like this. Like I can drink this like out in the pool or something. It's like, but like there's like a refreshing taste. There's the earthy taste, and then there's something else at the end that I'm like, what is that still?
I know, I can't figure it out. That might be the maraschino liqueur.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's interesting. We're using some ingredients that we weren't familiar with.
Never used before.
And I think we're going to try really hard to keep these cocktails as simple as possible. But when we first started setting up everything and doing our research, we were like, subjective. Oh, this sounded fun. Right?
Simple subjective.
But, well, I should say friendly to make at home cocktails. So things that you're not going to have to like go out and buy a whole new liquor cabinet to make.
I feel like we did for this one.
Yeah, exactly. Because when we were in the early stages, we were already set on like, for sure, this is going to be our first drink, first cocktail.
Not bad though.
Yeah. It's very enjoyable, but like some of the ingredients are not exactly easy to come by, and they weren't exactly reasonably priced.
Yeah.
And I want people to be able to drink along with us.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. But they can't do that if it's like you have to find this weird, obscure thing.
You have to travel across the world to get this.
We're still trying to find that banana syrup.
Talk to some like merchant in the middle of nowhere. We're like, hey, do you have the stuff? I got stuff. Anyway.
It is really good, though. Any other tasting notes to add? Because I'll be sure to add that also in our show notes.
So, one thing that I'm going to want to try to figure out, and it's going to have to be me trying to figure out after or before, after show notes. After the show to figure out when we remake this. Food pairings with this, like, because I like to snack. Like it something I think about a lot when I'm drinking is a word for snacks. When like in Spanish, when you go to a bar, you have this thing called botanas, and the terms like mostly like as peanuts or like it's a party tray of things like pretzels and peanuts and stuff. And so like I whenever I drink, I think about like, what can I have to pair with this, and my first go to thing is always gonna be like spicy chips because I like spicy chips. Then I go, how would
that's your personal preference.
But that's my personal preference. Like, how would that go with this? So it's like something like I want to figure out later in that aspect of things. But overall, like I like it. I'm not a gin person.
I feel like macadamia nuts, like a meaty nut would be really good, like cashews or something.
Yeah. Something
like salted, something salty, but not like and it has like a meaty nut. I know that sounds weird of a descriptor.
I mean, depends who you ask us, but meaty nut makes sense.
But isn't like not a flavored nut.
Yeah.
Maybe just lightly salted. And just like a bowl of cashews sounds so good right now.
Yeah. So maybe next time you can hear us chewing food.
I think we should just keep it to the... We can brainstorm with you guys while we're here recording what would taste good with our cocktail.
I'm like thinking like some like spicy chips would be good. Just because I like those. That's my personal preference. Just even like maybe like because like I said it's very like refreshing, but makes me think of lemonade. It's like maybe some popcorn.
Ooh.
With it. And then some like like
that could be good.
In that aspect of things, I don't know. So I will try to play this game with you on every episode.
Oh no.
This is called Would You Rather? And I'm gonna give you a scenario and I'll pitch in my thoughts on this and my responses as well on this. So this is gonna be the first one. So the premise of this is you get an old house from a relative.
Inheriting an old
inheriting a whole house. Don't think of relatives that you have right now who have old houses.
Just hypothetically.
That's hypothetical. Some uncle that you didn't know existed, and they're like, hey, I want to give this to Chelsea. Kind of thing. But there's a haunted item in the house.
Haunted item.
Okay.
Okay.
Would you rather have a haunted doll or a haunted mirror?
Oh, snap. That's a hard one. Because, like, I don't really get scared of the whole, like... it's like yes and no. I do kind of get scared of the mirrors, but not... I think I'd go with the mirror. I don't want the dolls because they show up in different places. And, like, with our kids, they move things around for us. So it's like we have ghosts in the house. It's just the kids. And they leave the dolls in interesting places.
Mm-hmm. Well, like what I was thinking about this is like the haunted doll is creeping itself because most haunted dolls are either like common toys or like really old like ceramic dolls, and those things like weird me out. Like not like I'm scared
They're like
of them.
lifelessly lifelike.
Yeah. But when I think of like a haunted mirror, the idea of like a doppelganger always comes out of my head. Like somebody like a copy of you coming out and like...
See, I never worry about the doppelganger thing. I always hear that with the mirrors. Like people worry about the doppelganger. I'm always worried I'm like going to see a shadow or something of a person.
Or
in
what
the
if
mirror.
it's like a gateway somewhere?
But I don't know. I don't get that. So I'd probably go with the mirror more. I feel like that's more tolerable.
Yeah, no, I agree. I go with the mirror more. And then, like you always hear the stories of like, old house covered in mirrors when you leave kind of thing. So it's like, if I can just put a sheet over it, I'm good. Fancy. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I keep thinking about just immediately what comes to mind is like one of my aunts had gotten us like these pretty porcelain fairy dolls. And they like sat on a swing. So you hung the hook like on your wall or whatever. And it looked like they were swinging.
Mm-hmm.
They were really pretty until it was dark. And because it's hanging on your wall and you can just kind of see the glass of their eyes. And eventually everyone, for all of my 3 siblings and we all ended up having them in the closet because it got to each of us at some point. So yeah, I would definitely say I'd probably go for the mirror. I think I could handle that a lot better mentally.
Mirror. Got it. Cool. So I'm glad that you looked up how to pronounce this thing because I did not pronounce it correctly in my head. So I'm probably going to pronounce it again. I'm going to pronounce it incorrectly again. But I'll try. So
the Cù-sith.
The Cù-sith was a special dog found in mythology of Scotland and the Hebrides. The name comes from Scottish Gaelic, similar to a beast exists in Irish mythology, the Cù-sith, and has a similarity to the Welsh, I can't pronounce that word, Shmonamon, or the Hounds of the On in English. In Scottish and Irish legends, the Cù-sith means the fairy dog. Was said to have a dark green shaggy coat and to be about the size of a large calf. Green was traditionally color worn or attributed to denizens of the fairy realm. Its eyes were large and had a fiery glow in its tail. It was long and curled, and sometimes it was braided. It was said to have paws the size of a man's hand. The beast was said to roam the wild moors or highlands, making its lair in rocky clefts and crevices. You mentioned earlier something about the 3Howls, so it's considered to be the harbinger of death. The Cù-sith was feared as the harbinger of death. In a similar way that the Green Reaper appears at the death to lead the souls to the afterlife, the Cù-sith takes the souls to the fair realm or the underworld. The Hound is said to have hunted silently for victims, but would sometimes rend the air that with 3 blood-curdling howls that carried for great distances and even far out over the sea. Whoever heard the howling, the beast had to reach the place of safety by the 3rd howl or be killed by the sheer terror. When this was heard, men would lock up women who were nursing babies. This was to prevent the Cù-sith from stealing them away to the fair world, where they will be made to give up their milk to feed the children of the Tidao. I'm sorry. Tidawinite. I can't. I have to look at this word. Tidawinite. Why can't I? What's going on? Sheep, or the fairies. Fairies were often believed to be the forefathers of the gods or the goddesses of nature. They were said to live in the fairy mounds, which was visible aspect on the entrance realm, which was kind of parallel universe existing alongside the world of human beings. That was quite an interesting little background in the Cù-sith.
Wow. I thought that was really, especially like the specifically nursing women.
Yeah, it's like
you're like trying to target me, aren't you?
So I found a story of a dog kind of creature.
A dog creature.
Thing in that aspect, and then I found a very similar let me go through the story and then we'll go to that. The story is called The Dog of Rosalind. To this day can be heard on the dark and stormy nights the baying of a dog in the woods near Rosalind Castle, Midlothian. The legend I heard was all day on February 24th, 1303. The wooden glen near Rosalind Castle echoed to the sound of battles as the Scots and the English fought grimly. An English soldier killed in the fight was the owner of a large hound, which attacked his master's killer so fiercely that the Scot was forced to slay the beast too. That night, as the battle-weary Scots rested within Rosalind Castle, the ghostly shape of a huge hound suddenly appeared in the guard room, terrifying the troops. Night after night, the phantom dog appeared, and the soldier named it the Mounted Dog. At last, it came to turn of the soldier who had slain the hound to stand guard. He carried the castle keys down a dark, twisting passway to the guard captain's room. Suddenly, there was heard a cry of terror and the terrible snarl of the hound from the passage. The soldier struggled from the passage, terror-stricken. Through unwounded, the man never spoke another word, died 3 days later. After that, the hound vanished from the castle. Nevertheless, his baying is still occasionally heard. That's a story somebody wrote. And then I found this other story while searching for more stuff, which I think was really cool. Okay, this story is called The Hound Scene.
The Hound Scene?
I was born and brought up in Rosalind and went to school in the village. When I was about 12 years old, my friend and I spent quite a bit of time playing in Rosalind Castle, as my friend aunt was a caretaker and lived in the castle some 40 years ago. We explored most of the nooks and crannies of the castle, as boys at that age are wont to do.
Are wont to do.
Are wont to do. There we go. I can read.
Take a breath.
One Saturday, we were exploring the second level corridor, which connects the monk cells, the old scriptorium, and the dungeons, when all of a sudden we were aware of some light coming from the end of the corridor, which had the windows blocked up, and there was normally no light coming from the area. The light grew intense, which was enough to alarm the sense of two 12-year-old boys who immediately were searching for just this kind of experience. We both looked at each other to check that we were both aware of the phenomenon. We both turned at the same time and took off along the corridor at what seemed like record-breaking speed until we came to an old onto the old main kitchen, which is a big room with a stone staircase, which is built into the right-hand side or the east wall of the castle. As we hurried up the stairs, we looked down to see the light which had been growing and moving towards us down the corridor was what appeared to be a large wolfhound-type dog, which ran underneath us and appeared to go straight to the wall next to a large fireplace, which was the old main cooking area for the castle. We did not stop until we got up the stairs and through the door into the upper part of the castle. To be suddenly met by my friend's aunt, who could tell from our nervous state that something had happened. When we blurted out the story, she smiled and said, "Aye, boys, it's a old castle with lots of strange things like that, but didn't worry about them. They will not harm me. Come and have a bottle of lemonade." Nothing more was said. We drank our lemonade and had some biscuits, and the sense of fear dropped away. But we did not go near that particular corridor for quite a long time. Much later, we looked at the wall where the apparition of the dog had disappeared to find that it was once been a doorway. The arch from the door still exists today. My friend's aunt lived at the castle on her own for about 20 years as the sole caretaker of the tourist guide, and many times recently I have wished that I had spoken more to her about her experience at the castle, but youth rejects the wisdom of age, and it's only now I regret missing the opportunities gifted to youth. So yeah, I was like, I found the first story and I was like, this is really cool, interesting. Dog related to the Hound thing situation. Not really the Cù-sith, but like still like interesting. Then I was like, somebody experienced something at the castle. Mm-hmm. That was kind of interesting. And that aspect of things.
Oh, so it was the same castle?
The same castle was from the story.
Oh, interesting. And so in the first story, you have the soldier who's supposed to kind of guard against the Hound that's trying to get in. So
in the first story, you have this war, and the Scots gets an Englishman and the dog.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Scots are in this castle. And then you have the dog appears in people and is looking for this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he eventually finds him. And he's so terrified, and like 3 days later he dies.
Yeah, so almost very Cù-sith-like.
Yeah.
And then I love that, like, the wolfhound ghost running through the wall where the archway. I just honestly thought of my parents' dogs right away with that.
Trample people.
Well, they wouldn't realize they were dead. They'd keep roaming about.
Mm-hmm. Just keep walking
roaming through.
Irish wolfhound.
Like, I could visualize it when they said the Irish wolfhound, like, dog-like ghost.
If before I met you, if you told me about Irish wolfhounds, I'd be like, they look like big dogs and like they're probably like, destructive. And then I met you and I've lived with Irish wolfhounds, and it's like they're just giant puppies who have no idea how big they are, but they're like as gentle as they're like very gentle, like walk around kind of thing. Like
yeah,
like when you get stepped on accidentally, it's like painful, but like it's like the whole like bull in a china shop kind of situation.
Yeah, I mean, you see them around Little Boo all the time, and they are so precise around him. It's amazing.
But yeah, that was what had those two stories. Like the first story, like it was a little more on the creepy side of things. But the second one was like, that's interesting. I like.
Yeah, it's a little like uplifting after the creepy story.
Yeah.
And I wrote down braided tail because I was like, I can imagine a horse having a braided tail. Mm-hmm. I'm like trying to think of a dog with a braided tail.
You think like a long tailed dog, like a hairy shaggy dog.
Yeah, I know, it's just hard to visualize. Mm-hmm. And I also thought it was interesting how they like explained that the green color is like to symbolize the Fae folk. I'd never heard that either.
So I was thinking when because I knew about the green color and about Annie, I was like, is Annie green? The dog?
Oh.
At 3Howls.
Oh.
Like, is Annie green?
Nope, she's black with a white face. She's really cute.
No, dogs are all cute.
Can't see you talking.
That's true. Kind of thing. But yeah, no, it's like a kind of interesting aspect.
I like that. It's a good start.
Yeah, I think it's a good start company. One thing that I was thinking about a lot when you were talking about the restriction is like 57%. That's a very specific number. Mm-hmm. How do you test 57%.
It's actually more specific than that.
It's more specific, 57%.
Yeah, it's 57.17%.
So,
But a lot of people round it to 57%.
So, are you
it's
saying
57.17
if
or 57.17?
If my alcohol content is 57.1, then it can still light gunpowder. If it's less, it can still light gunpowder?
It has to be more. It has to be at least 57.1.
So if it's less than
0.17.
So if my alcohol content is 57.1, then it won't light gunpowder?
Potentially.
But if it's 57.2,
it'll definitely
light up gunpowder.
I mean, we'd have to find an alcohol that has that precise of a
and also we need to find gunpowder.
ABV measurement.
Who carries gunpowder? But I was like, 57 is such a weird number. It's like,
it is a weird number, but that's so when you see like 100 proof, like in the UK, or most import bottles, they're basing it off of that. It has the 57% ABV. So it's gunpowder proof if it's 100%. Now, if you're in the US, they measure it differently.
Well, of course, we do things differently here.
But anyway. But yeah, so I think 100 proof in the UK is like, I can't remember, 60 or 70% proof in the US. And I was like, I don't know how they're getting that math.
Go big or go home.
But that's a little too technical, I think. But I just thought it was interesting. They had that very specific percentage of 57%. Oh, I said 17. It's 15. Oops.
Oh, okay. Still, it's like.
So if you had 0.1 versus 0.2.
And the actual thing that I'm thinking about, because like I've been doing a lot of looking into numbers recently and whatnot, and it's like, no, like that can kind of be realistic, because back then people were more like precise into like numbers, versus now people are like more like round up enough. Kind of thing, like, you know, when you talk to your friends, they're like, hey, how much does that cost? Oh, it cost me like $20. And like they're like, oh, it's like $18.99 or something. Kind of thing. So they just like round off to like do things. So like, I guess that makes more sense for back then, but like I was like, that's still a very specific number to be like, somebody's like, they're measuring gunpowder. It's like, okay, 57, no. 57.1, still no. 57.5, no. 57.17, there, still lights, yes. I don't know. It's like, probably some like equation they have to come up with. You know, and then it just became that number for it.
Yeah. Or my thought is just they like pour a little bit onto gunpowder and then try to light it.
It's like, hey, you.
And it's like, oh, maybe if it sparked, it was like, oh, it's 50%, but not enough.
It's like, who do we have that's expendable that we can just go try to light up some gunpowder?
Yeah, I like that story.
That's cool.
Those are a good start.
Yeah. Okay then.
All right. Should I say thank you,
yeah.
Or you want to say thank you?
I can say thank you, because I don't know the next one. So, thanks for stepping along with us on our very first episode. Want to keep those spirits flowing, so please be sure to show your support by reviewing, subscribing to our podcast, and subscribing. Don't do both. Do both, do one, whatever. Whichever you feel. You don't have to do anything. But we will appreciate that. If you enjoy the show, be sure to share with others. Tell them, hey, there's a couple drinking, telling spooky
Scooby stories.
Scooby stories. No. Stories that hopefully scare Scooby, and that'd be awesome. Anyway, spooky stories. And yeah.
Yeah, we want to keep doing it and get to the point where you guys are drinking along with us.
Yeah, that'd be fun. You know, you guys can let us know what you think of the drinks, what you think of the stories, and well, you get to try them on yourself, kind of thing, and whatnot.
And if you want to go beyond the reviewing or the subscribing, and you actually want to interact with us, you guys can find us. We have a website that's sipsandspirits.com, and our podcast is available on all the podcast hosting platforms out there. So Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. There's tons of them. I can't name them all.
Oh.
But we have an Instagram and a Twitter. We will be having a video version of this on YouTube, where you'll actually get a little bit more of a bonus of getting to see us mix up the cocktails, really see what the drink looks like, and get to know our lovely faces.
See what the drink looks like that we made, not just a picture someone makes on the internet, like. It's like how it comes up from like normal people.
Yeah. So and Facebook. So those top 3 main social media platforms is kind of where you can find us haunting. Yeah. So I think it's about time to close out the tab. Yeah.
Probably so. How much does it cost me this time?
I mean, I still have some.
You have some left.
In my drink.
I drink a lot faster than she does, but
I made mine last through the episode. I promise.
You did. But I was thirsty.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we hope to catch you around the bar next time.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Peace.
See you guys next time.
Next time. Cheers.
We're working on this outro.
We'll figure it out sometime. It's the first time. It gave us like 3 times the charm.
Yeah. First episode's a little wonky, but we hope you guys will come
back
drink along with us next time.
Okay.
Thanks for stopping by.